Usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of total precision, like engineering.
Right. It's very binary.
Exactly. You break your arm, the X-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points and says, there it is.
The machine leaves absolutely no room for interpretation.
Broken or not broken. I mean, it's clean, it's comforting. We really like things to be visible and categorized.
Yeah.
But then you step into the world of user interface design, and suddenly that X-ray machine is pointing at something completely invisible.
Yeah. The landscape is honestly just murky.
Totally murky. Because in digital design, the fracture isn't a white line on a black background. The fracture is a user staring at their screen for 3 seconds, getting frustrated, and then just silently deleting your app.
And you might never know exactly why they left.
Right? So, welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. I am speaking directly to you today, specifically those of you who are just starting your career in UI and UX design. Or, maybe you're a developer or product manager who is just incredibly hungry to master the foundational elements of how we actually interact with the digital world.
It's so vital.
It really is. Our mission today is to break down the core design concepts for someone just starting their career based on Chapter 19, Navigation, from the book Design User Interface.
I'd argue it is the most consequential chapter you could possibly study.
Really? The most consequential.
Absolutely, because it takes something we all use every single day, literally thousands of times a day, and exposes the rigorous, almost mathematical, invisible framework holding it all together. I mean, navigation isn't just about drawing cute icons, it's about architecting human behavior.
Okay, let's unpack this, because navigation truly is the lifeblood of any application or website.
Without a doubt.
You can have the most beautiful color palette, or the most engaging copywriting, or some revolutionary back-end database. But if there is even the smallest glitch in how the navigation works, none of that matters.
Wow, it all completely falls apart.
You are going to see massive user drop-offs. It's a brutal environment out there. If they cannot navigate, they cannot use the product. The flow of value stops immediately.
Yeah, and hard-to-use navigation doesn't just frustrate users, it physically blocks them from achieving their goals.
Right.
Every time a user opens an app, they are trying to solve a problem. They want to check their bank balance, or message a friend, or, buy a pair of shoes.
They have a very specific intent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if your navigation creates friction between their intent and their destination, you are actively degrading their experience. That's why it is absolutely crucial to design your menus with just an obsessive, microscopic amount of attention to detail.
Which brings us to the most crucial, overarching principle from the text. We're just going to drop it right here at the start to set the baseline for everything else we discussed today. The golden rule.
Oh, the golden rule.
The best navigation is the one that's always visible.
It sounds so deceptively simple, doesn't it?
It really does, but it gets violated constantly.
All the time, mostly by designers who are trying to be clever or overly minimalist. Or they mistakenly believe that stripping away interface elements automatically equals a cleaner design.
Yes, the whole cleaner's always better trap.
Right, but cleanliness without utility is just a blank canvas. It's useless. So today, we're going to look at the 3 main types of navigation that dictate how a user moves through a digital space.
So we have visible navigation, which is the baseline. Then we have hidden navigation, specifically focusing on the mechanics of the hamburger menu.
A classic.
And finally, contextual navigation, which is that really subtle art of moving users organically through the actual content itself.
Exactly. It's a full spectrum.
I want to start by really digging into that golden rule, though. The absolute superiority of visible navigation. Because if we accept the premise that visible is inherently the best, then there have to be incredibly strict parameters for executing it flawlessly.
Oh, there are.
You can't just slap 5 buttons on a screen and call it a day.
Absolutely not. Visible navigation is defined as a navigation that is always present on the screen. It persists regardless of what the user is doing.
Usually with the actual content of the app scrolling dynamically underneath it, right?
Right, or around it. It is considered the mandatory starting point for designing menus on both web and mobile interfaces.
And most often, this manifests as a set of text links, buttons, icons, or some carefully calibrated mix of those elements.
Yeah. But the defining characteristic is permanence. It does not hide.
And placement is everything here. Let's talk about mobile first, because the screen constraints are so severe. The standard convention is very clear for mobile devices. The main visible navigation must be placed at the bottom of the screen.
Let's examine the physical ergonomics of that choice. because it is not an aesthetic preference at all.
It's an anatomical necessity.
Precisely. Why the bottom? Well, it's designed entirely around the mechanics of one-handed mobile use.
Like when you're carrying a coffee.
Exactly. Think about how you physically interact with your hardware when you're walking down the street or holding onto a rail on public transit. Your device is resting securely in your palm, your fingers are wrapping the back, and your thumb is hovering naturally over the lower third of the glass.
Right. And mobile screens have only gotten larger over the years. I mean, they are huge now.
They are massive.
If the main navigation was anchored at the top of the screen, the way desktop websites traditionally are, you'd have to perform these awkward hand gymnastics just to reach it.
Yeah, you'd have to shimmy the phone down in your palm.
And risk dropping a $1,000 piece of glass onto the pavement. Or you'd be forced to use two hands, which instantly adds a layer of physical friction to the user experience.
The bottom bar respects the physical reality of the user's body.
It respects the body, yes. And the next rule of visible navigation respects the user's mind. This is where we get into capacity limits or, the rule of numbers.
This is a big one.
On mobile consumer products, you must ruthlessly prioritize and fit your main navigation into a maximum of 5 main categories.
5, that's the magic number.
And on a desktop interface where you have more horizontal space and a different input method, you can stretch that up to 7. But under no circumstances should you exceed those numbers without a deeply compelling reason.
Let's dissect the psychology of that up to 5 and up to 7 threshold. Why are those specific numbers the absolute limit for ease of use?
Yeah, what is actually happening in the user's brain when they look at a menu?
Well, it basically comes down to 2 major psychological factors: cognitive load and choice paralysis. When a user opens an app, especially for the first few times, their brain is instantly working to map the digital environment.
It's an active process of orientation.
Exactly. Every single option you present is a discrete piece of data that their brain has to read, interpret, process, and evaluate against their current goal.
That's a lot of subconscious work.
It is. So if you present them with 10 tiny options squished together at the bottom of a mobile screen, their working memory becomes instantly overwhelmed.
They have to spend precious mental energy just figuring out what the application is capable of doing.
Right, rather than actually executing the task they came to do.
Wait, but look at highly complex enterprise software. Look at a Bloomberg terminal or a massive CRM like Salesforce.
Oh, sure.
They have way more than 5 items in their main navigation. Are you saying those are fundamentally poorly designed? Or does this golden rule of 5 only apply to casual consumer apps?
That's a really great point. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is all about user intent and training. Special, highly complex professional products absolutely break this rule.
Okay, so there are exceptions.
Yes, but they do it because the context demands it. A financial analyst or a medical researcher using specialized database software is spending 8 to 10 hours a day inside that interface.
They're essentially living in it.
Right. They are highly trained professionals who require granular, immediate control over a vast array of tools. They are willing to climb a very steep learning curve.
And endure higher cognitive load up front for the sake of long-term efficiency.
Exactly. But here's the reality check. 99% of what designers are building are consumer products.
And consumer apps need to simplify their navigation patterns to fit the 5-item framework because the user's attention span is razor thin.
Razor thin. If a consumer opens your fitness tracker app and sees 10 different tabs, they will just leave.
They'll just close it.
If you think you need 10 items in a consumer app, it usually means your information architecture is flawed. You just haven't categorized your features well enough.
That is a brilliant distinction. It's like navigating a massive physical space. I always think of it like walking into a sprawling, multi-level department store.
Oh, I love this analogy.
Right. If you walk in, and right at the entrance there's a signpost with 30 highly specific, tiny arrows pointing at every direction, like men's athletic socks, women's formal hats, kitchen spatulas, you're going to freeze.
You are totally paralyzed by the granularity.
Exactly. But if you walk in and see 5 massive clear signs, menswear, women's wear, home goods, electronics, customer service, you instantly know your general trajectory.
The subcategories can just live within those main hubs.
Precisely. 5 broad, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive categories provide enough breadth to cover the core functionality of almost any consumer application.
And more importantly, a group of 5 items is small enough that the human brain can process and scan all the options in a fraction of a second.
Entirely subconsciously.
Yes, it completely neutralizes user anxiety.
So given that mobile visible navigation relies so heavily on this bottom placement and this incredibly strict 5-item limit, we really need to examine the industry standard for executing this pattern, the tab bar.
Ah, the tab bar. Technically, that's the official nomenclature used by Apple in their iOS design guidelines for bottom navigation.
But the whole industry uses it now, right?
Oh, yeah. The entire digital product industry has essentially adopted it as the universal terminology across all platforms, including Android and responsive web.
So what makes a good tab bar?
Well, the most effective, time-tested version of a tab bar is a set of horizontally distributed icons, accompanied by small text labels sitting directly underneath them.
And this brings us to a massive ongoing debate in the design community. Labels versus naked icon.
Oh boy, the naked icon debate.
There is this overwhelming temptation, particularly among newer designers or designers heavily influenced by minimalist trends, to strip away the text and just use icons.
Visually, it looks incredibly clean. I get the appeal.
It looks sleek. But the design principles from the source material are unequivocal here. It is almost always best to include text labels underneath the icons.
What's fascinating here is the sheer amount of assumption designers make about their user base. Designers suffer from the curse of knowledge.
The curse of knowledge, yes.
They spend weeks, sometimes months, staring at a specific set of vector icons. To the designer, a little paper airplane icon obviously means direct messages.
And a little bell obviously means activity feed.
Exactly. But users do not share that context. An icon that seems universally intuitive and painfully obvious to a 20-something designer working in a tech hub might mean absolutely nothing to a 60-year-old user.
A user who uses their phone primarily for family photos and weather updates.
Exactly.
There are maybe, 3 or 4 universally recognized symbols left in the digital world?
Pretty much. A magnifying glass universally means search.
A house universally means home or main feed.
A gear generally means settings.
But once you stray past those specific icons, you are entering the wild west of semiotics.
It's total chaos. Take a lightning bolt, for example. What does that mean?
Oh, that's a great one. If I'm at a camera app, it means flash.
Right. But if you're in a news app, it means trending stories.
And in a fitness app, it means quick workout. Or in an EV charging app, it means power.
See, without a text label, the user is left guessing. They have to play a game of digital roulette.
And that guessing game introduces massive friction. Using icons without labels certainly saves vertical screen real estate, which is highly prized on a mobile device.
And yes, it makes the interface look uncluttered in your Dribble portfolio.
But the functional cost is exorbitant. If a user feels lost, or if they have to physically tap an icon and navigate to a new page just to discover what that icon actually does.
Your navigation has fundamentally failed its primary objective. Clarity must always trump aesthetics. A confused user is a churned user.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because deciding to use labels isn't just a typographic preference. It completely alters the strict underlying mathematics of your UI sizing.
Yes, the math is crucial here.
The parameters laid out for this are highly specific. If you are stubbornly using icons alone, the minimum height of that bottom navigation bar on a mobile screen must be 44 points.
Yep, 44 points.
But the moment you add those crucial clarifying text labels beneath the icons, the minimum starting height of the entire bar jumps to 60 points.
Those point values 44 and 60 are absolutely critical, and they are not arbitrary numbers pulled out of thin air.
They come from the physical body again, right?
Exactly. They are deeply rooted in physical ergonomics and the actual surface area of the average human fingertip.
So in digital design, a point is a resolution-independent measurement. It ensures elements appear at the same physical size regardless of the screen's pixel density.
Right. Every single interactive element on a touch screen needs to be physically large enough to comfortably tap with a finger without the risk of accidentally triggering the adjacent item.
So when you stack a text label beneath an icon, you are expanding the necessary vertical touch target area.
Yes, to ensure both visual breathing room and physical tap accuracy.
Going from a 44-point height to a 60-point height means you are losing 16 points of vertical screen space.
Which is a lot on mobile.
On a compact mobile display, giving up 16 points across the entire bottom edge of the screen is a massive concession. That is prime real estate where content could live.
You are essentially paying a 16-point clarity tax.
A clarity tax, I love that.
Yeah.
You pay it to guarantee your user never feels stupid.
And it is the best investment you can make in your interface. You sacrifice a fraction of content visibility to ensure that the user can navigate the entirety of the content with confidence.
And the mathematics extend horizontally as well, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. If you are adhering to the rule of 5 items, each element in the tab bar should occupy exactly 1/5 or 20% of the screen's total width.
So you don't size the touch targets based on the width of the icon itself.
No, never. Or the length of the word. You distribute the space completely evenly. This creates a perfectly balanced invisible hit area for each option.
Maximizing the margin for physical error.
Exactly.
And within that perfectly mathematically balanced bar, there is another non-negotiable rule, visual distinction of the active state.
Yes, the active state.
The difference between the 4 inactive tabs and the one currently selected. Active tab needs to be profoundly, unmistakably pronounced.
If the active state is too similar to the inactive state, the interface fails to answer the user's most basic subconscious question, which is, where am I?
It removes the "you are here" indicator from their mental map.
Which causes instant disorientation. A slight shift in grayscale is just not enough.
No. You have to use bold, contrasting colors or significantly heavier font weight.
Or perhaps a solid filled icon against a set of thin outline icons. It must be glaringly obvious at a passing glance which tab is currently governing the screen.
It's like being in a sprawling shopping mall and looking at one of those directory maps.
Right.
The map could be beautifully illustrated, perfectly color-coded, and highly detailed, but the entire thing is functionally useless to you if there isn't a giant high-contrast red dot screaming, "You are standing right here."
Exactly. A map without a location marker is just a poster.
Now, while we are deeply entrenched in the topic of visible navigation, we have to talk about how this translates to desktop environments. Specifically, the sidebar.
The sidebar is a whole different beast.
The parameters shift significantly when you move from a vertical mobile screen to a horizontal desktop monitor. And there are severe warnings in the text about how to survive designing a sidebar.
The sidebar is an incredibly powerful tool for desktop web and software interfaces. Because you have such generous horizontal real estate, you can anchor the navigation on the left-hand side.
Allowing the content to flow dynamically to the right.
Right, but this abundance of space often leads designers into a really dangerous trap. The temptation to cram as many navigational elements as humanly possible onto one screen.
Specifically trying to force everything above the fold.
Exactly. Designers get obsessed with ensuring every single link is visible before the user even touches their scroll wheel.
And the result is usually disastrous, right?
Yeah, totally disastrous. When you stack text links too densely in a sidebar, trying to fit 20 or 30 items into a compact vertical list, you create a monolithic wall of text.
It just becomes visual noise.
It exponentially increases the time it takes for a user to scan and cognitively parse the options. Furthermore, on a physical level, the interactive links become so compressed that users have to execute high-precision mouse movements just to click the right text.
Which frequently leads to misclicks.
Exactly.
So how do we mitigate that? How do we build a sidebar that holds a lot of information without turning into a dense, unreadable phone book?
Well, the technical solution provided in the book is the use of helper rectangles.
Helper rectangles, let's break that down.
Yeah, the helper rectangle is a fantastic, highly practical methodology for UI design. When you are constructing a sidebar in your design software, you shouldn't just be typing out a list of text.
Like hitting return after every word.
Right, don't do that. You should create a literal invisible box, a helper rectangle for each line of text. You set a strict height for that box, say 32 or 40 points, and you center the text vertically within it.
So this forces you to respect the vertical rhythm.
Exactly. It ensures that every single link has a consistent, comfortable click target surrounding it. You aren't just adjusting line spacing for visual aesthetics, you are mathematically defining the interactive zones.
And to make that hierarchy more easily scannable for the user's eye, you can introduce subtle visual separators.
Like using very light, low-contrast divider lines between the tabs. That can help the eye track horizontally.
Or, if you prefer a much cleaner, more modern aesthetic that avoids unnecessary lines, you simply employ a highly generous line height. You give the text room to breathe, using white space as the primary structural element.
Because visibility is not solely about the element existing on the screen, it is about the element being easily readable, cognitively digestible, and physically clickable.
If a visible menu is cluttered to the point of being a high-anxiety minefield of potential misclicks, its visibility is actually a detriment.
A total detriment.
Okay, so we've established the absolute supremacy of the visible menu. We have our 5 perfectly spaced, 60-point tall bottom tabs with text labels for mobile.
Check.
We have our breathable, mathematically precise sidebar for desktop.
Check.
But here is the inevitable reality of modern product development apps do a lot.
They do way too much sometimes.
If we are strictly capping our mobile visible items at 5, what happens to the vast remainder of the application's architecture? The account settings, the privacy policies, the secondary features, the obscure notification logs.
We have to put them somewhere.
Have to hide them.
We do. And this necessity introduces the second major architectural category, hidden navigation.
Hidden navigation.
This pattern relies entirely on a secondary menu structure that remains completely invisible to the user until they perform a specific action to trigger its appearance.
And within this category, the undisputed ubiquitous king is the hamburger menu.
Oh, the hamburger menu, those 3 stacked horizontal lines.
It has infiltrated every corner of the digital ecosystem. You literally cannot escape it.
Its ubiquity is really fascinating. It was actually originally conceived decades ago for early Xerox graphical interfaces.
Wait, really? Xerox?
Yeah, but it was heavily resurrected and popularized by Google's material design language in the early era of modern smartphones. It provided an elegant solution to the small screen real estate problem.
And since then, it has transitioned to become an absolute standard convention on responsive web design as well.
However, the placement of this icon is not arbitrary. It is governed by incredibly strict platform conventions.
This is a crucial distinction. For native mobile applications, meaning the specialized software you download directly from the iOS App Store or the Google Play Store, the hamburger menu icon must almost always be anchored to the top left side of the screen.
Left side for native apps, yes.
But for responsive websites, meaning you are navigating to a URL through Safari or Chrome on your mobile device, that exact same icon shifts over and aligns to the top right side.
This divergence is a perfect example of how historical platform conventions shape modern user expectations.
Why the left's for native?
Well, on mobile operating systems, the top left corner was established very early on as the standard origin point for app-level navigation drawers. It's where the user's eye naturally begins scanning in left-to-right reading cultures.
That makes sense. But on the web, the top left corner is fiercely guarded territory.
You know, absolutely guarded.
Yeah.
It is almost universally reserved for the brand's primary logo, and that logo traditionally functions as the universal return to homepage anchor.
So you can't put a menu icon there.
Right. Therefore, when web designers started adapting massive desktop navigation bars for tiny mobile browser windows, the hidden hamburger menu had to migrate to the top right corner to avoid directly clashing with the brand logo.
It is so vital to understand the why behind that convention. If you are building a native iOS app and you arbitrarily decide to put a right-aligned hamburger menu at the top, it is going to feel subconsciously wrong to the user.
It introduces a microdose of cognitive friction because you are violating a deeply ingrained platform-level habit.
Now, beyond the hamburger drawer, there is another prominent form of hidden navigation that serves a slightly different purpose: the floating action menu.
The floating action button, frequently abbreviated as the FAB. This is a highly distinct pattern.
What does it look like?
It is typically a prominent circular button that physically floats above the main content layer, most often anchored in the bottom right quadrant of the screen.
Like a composed new tweet button.
Exactly. Its default state usually features a plus sign, indicating the ability to create or add something, a new post, a new email, a new transaction.
And when the user taps it, it doesn't open a full-screen drawer, right?
No, instead, it expands into a localized fan of additional contextual options. These secondary actions might pop up vertically like a stack of coins, or fan out horizontally, or even blossom in a semicircle around the primary button.
And there is a brilliant, subtle micro-interaction built into the core mechanics of the floating action button. When the user taps that primary plus sign to expand the hidden menu, the plus sign icon itself physically rotates exactly 45 degrees.
It's so clever. If we connect this to the broader spectrum of user psychology and feedback loops, this 45-degree rotation is an absolute masterclass in intuitive, nonverbal communication.
Because by rotating 45 degrees, a vertical and horizontal cross, a plus sign, instantly transforms into diagonal intersecting lines and X.
It is so incredibly elegant. In a fraction of a second, without a single word of instruction, it instantly trains the user on how to close the menu they just triggered.
They tap the plus to open the options, And directly underneath their fingertip, the icon seamlessly transitions into a close button.
They intuitively understand, tapping this exact same spot again will reverse the action and close the menu.
You don't need a tutorial overlay. You don't need a tooltip. The interface teaches the user how to use it through the physics of its own motion.
It creates a perfectly seamless, self-contained loop of interaction. But let's pivot back to the hamburger menu for a moment.
Yeah, let's talk about the icon itself.
Because the actual design of that specific icon, those 3 lines, is surprisingly a major point of contention and wasted energy among designers.
Designers love to meticulously tweak the visual aesthetic of those lines, don't they?
Oh, they obsess over it. They make the middle line slightly shorter to create a sense of perspective, or they turn the lines into 3 dots, or they obsess over the stroke thickness.
And the fundamental truth here is you need to chill out.
Seriously.
The exact mathematical length or the specific stylized shape of those 3 lines does not matter as much as designers think it does.
It really doesn't. What matters visually is baseline consistency. The stroke weight of the hamburger lines and the roundness of their corners need to match the visual language of the rest of the iconography in your application.
So if all your other icons use sharp 2-pixel strokes, your hamburger menu shouldn't be composed of thick, rounded 4-pixel lines.
Exactly. It would look completely out of place. But the true secret to a highly functional hamburger menu isn't about its visual styling. It's about its spatial properties.
The touch target. We are back to the mechanics of the fingertip.
We always come back to the fingertip. Just like the tabs at the bottom of the screen, the hamburger icon floating at the top must have a clickable area that is physically large enough to accommodate comfortable, inaccurate touch.
So what's the strict recommendation here?
It's a safe zone between 40 and 44 points. This is the crucial disconnect designers fail to grasp. The actual visual shape of the 3 lines drawn on the screen might be quite small, perhaps only 20 or 24 points wide.
But the invisible bounding box surrounding that icon, the active area that actually listens for the user's tap, must be expanded to that full 40 to 44 points.
Yes.
I always imagine the hidden menu as a heavy trapdoor in the floor of a house.
Okay, I like where this is going.
It is a fantastic architectural trick to save space in the main living room. You can hide all the plumbing, the electrical panels, and the seasonal storage down in the basement.
Right.
But a trapdoor is completely, utterly useless and actually quite dangerous if it doesn't have an incredibly reliable, perfectly sized, easy-to-grab iron handle to yank it open.
That makes total sense.
If the user has to peck aggressively at the top corner of their glass screen 5 times just to get the menu to register the tap and slide open, your trapdoor handle is broken. The user will assume the app is frozen.
That is the perfect way to visualize the relationship between UI and UX. The visual icon is merely the visual affordance. It's the hint. The invisible touch target is the actual handle.
And before we move past the hamburger icon itself and into the drawer, we really have to address how to handle state changes within hidden navigation, specifically notification bubbles.
Ah, yes, the red dots.
Because if your hidden drawer contains a subsection that has new unread activity like a dedicated messages tab or an alerts tab, you cannot leave the user in the dark.
No, you have to surface that metadata on the outside of the hidden menu.
Right. You attach a high contrast notification bubble, usually a red dot with white text, directly overlapping the hamburger icon itself.
It acts as an ambient beacon, telling the user, hey, there is something actively waiting for your attention behind this door.
And there is a highly specific mechanical detail here concerning the geometry of those bubbles. If you are building an application where you anticipate the notification numbers getting reasonably high, you have to plan the scalable shape of the bubble.
This is a classic junior designer mistake.
Right. A perfect circle works beautifully for a single digit, like a 1 or a 5. But if that notification count hits 3 digits, say 150, forcing that wide text into a constrained perfect circle will cause the numbers to crash into the edges.
It breaks your layout and looks incredibly amateurish.
You have to program the bubble to dynamically stretch into a pill shape to comfortably accommodate the wider character count.
This is the essence of systematic design. You are anticipating the edge cases. A junior designer builds a UI for the ideal, pristine scenario where everything is a single digit.
And as a senior designer architect, a system that gracefully handles the extreme, messy realities of actual use. So we have engineered our perfectly invisible 44-point touch target, our notification bubble is dynamically scaling, and the user taps the hamburger icon. Getting the user to open the menu is actually the easy part.
The easy part, yeah.
Designing the actual drawer that physically slides out from the edge of the screen. This is the arena where so many well-intentioned designers make critical user hemorrhaging errors.
Indeed it is. The hamburger drawer is essentially a temporary overlaid visible menu. It hijacks the screen. And the absolute foundational rule of this drawer is the principle of contrast.
Contrast in this context, meaning the drawer needs to visually and physically separate itself from the active content sitting underneath it.
Yes. When the drawer slides out into the viewport, it typically occupies about 70 to 80% of the screen's horizontal width. The original content of the app is still partially visible in that remaining 20% sliver on the side.
So to communicate to the user's brain that the drawer is currently the active layer.
The background content must be heavily dimmed, darkened, or blurred. This is a technique often referred to as adding a scrim.
A scrim.
Right. Furthermore, the physical drawer itself must have a solid, high-contrast background color. If the background of the drawer is slightly transparent, or if the contrast is simply too low, the text links inside the drawer will visually blend and collide with the complex text and imagery of the app underneath.
It creates a visually chaotic, completely unreadable mess.
It has to look and behave like an opaque physical sheet of metal has forcefully slid over the application.
But the most pervasive, insidious problem that plagues these navigation drawers isn't poor contrast, it's alignment.
Oh, alignment.
It's the micro margins of the icons and their accompanying text labels.
This is where we dive back into the rigorous mathematics of interface design. A poorly aligned navigation drawer where the icons zigzag down the page and the text margins are inconsistent instantly makes an application feel cheap.
It feels fragile, it feels broken.
To solve this chaos, the methodology requires the implementation of a strict grid system.
The 8-point or 10-point spatial grid. I want to really break this concept down because understanding the invisible grid is quite literally the secret sauce that separates competent UI design from premium world-class UI design.
Okay, let's conceptualize it. Imagine a very fine invisible mesh overlaying your entire digital canvas. Every single square in that mesh is exactly 8 pixels by 8 pixels, or 10 by 10.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
When you are placing elements on the screen buttons, text boxes, icons, their physical dimensions, and crucially, the empty spaces between them must always be mathematical multiples of that base number.
So if you're operating on an 8-point grid system, your margins, paddings, and heights will always be 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, and so on.
Exactly.
Wait, why specifically 8? Why not like 7 or 9?
That's a great question, because screen resolutions in digital displays scale in multiples of 2. When your app is rendered on a high-density Retina display, scaling an 8-point element up by 2x or 3x results in perfectly crisp whole pixel numbers, so 16, 24. If you use a 7-point margin, scaling it up 1.5x results in half pixels, which causes the anti-aliasing engine to blur the edges of your interface, making it look fuzzy.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
So how do we actually apply this mathematical grid to the construction of the hamburger drawer?
First, just as we did with the desktop sidebar, you utilize 44-point high invisible guiding rectangles to establish the vertical height for every single row in the menu.
That guarantees the touch target again.
Yes. Then, to perfectly align your icons down the left side of the drawer, you do not just manually eyeball their placement.
No eyeballing allowed.
Never. You create a rigid, safe area square for each icon, let's say a 44 by 44 point bounding box, and you align the actual vector icon perfectly in the absolute center of that square.
And then you use your base grid number to dictate the horizontal spacing.
Exactly. The physical distance from the far left edge of the screen to the beginning of that icon's safe area bounding box should be a strict multiple of your grid. Let's utilize 16 points.
Right.
And then the distance from the right edge of that icon's safe area to the start of the actual text label should be that exact same grid value, 16 points. You align the text vertically dead center within the 44-point guide, and you align it horizontally flush to the left edge of its margin.
Every single row follows this exact formula.
Every single one.
And a great practical tip here. You can test the integrity of your math by literally drawing solid red geometric blocks above, below, and beside your text in your design software.
Yes, the red block test.
You use these solid blocks to visually guarantee that the negative space is mathematically identical everywhere. It sounds incredibly tedious, and frankly it is.
It's very tedious.
But that relentless, rigorous mathematical spacing is the literal, perceptible difference between an app that feels like a hastily coded high school project and an app that feels like a polished billion-dollar product.
The human eye is incredibly adept at detecting microscopic misalignments, even if the brain can't consciously articulate it. A user may not look at a menu and say, oh, the left margin on the settings tab is off by 3 pixels, but they will absolutely feel a generalized sense of unease and distrust toward the interface.
Mathematical precision eliminates that subconscious unease. It creates visual rhythm.
Now, speaking of unease and anxiety, there is one specific, highly volatile button, typically housed within the hidden navigation drawer, that causes more sheer panic than any other interactive element.
The logout button, yes.
The ultimate destructive action, the user session.
The parameters for handling this specific action are highly explicit. If your navigation drawer contains a logout button, you must physically quarantine it from the rest of the navigational structure.
Quarantine's the perfect word for it.
You must separate it from the main list of links by at least a massive double space, or ideally, you sever it completely and anchor it all the way down at the very absolute bottom edge of the drawer.
This raises an important question regarding interaction design. Why require such extreme isolation for one single button?
It fundamentally comes down to protecting the user's psychological state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Logging out of an application, especially an application you rely on frequently, or one that requires complex two-factor authentication, biometric scans, and password managers to access, is a massive workflow-destroying disruption.
Users harbor a genuine, well-documented psychological fear of accidentally triggering a logout sequence. It is so incredibly true. If I am quickly trying to check a transaction in my banking app while standing at a checkout counter and I accidentally tap logout, I am suddenly locked out of my own data.
It's a nightmare.
I might have to go find my password manager, wait for an SMS text message code, type it in, and waste 3 agonizing minutes just getting back to the exact screen I was already on.
The panic is real.
Putting the logout button directly underneath or next to the settings or user profile tab, which are tabs people tap all the time to adjust minor preferences, is exactly like mounting the red emergency ejector seat button directly next to the radio volume dial in a fighter jet.
That is a terrifying image.
You are practically begging for a catastrophic user error.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to engineer a physical safety buffer.
That analogy is mathematically accurate in terms of user friction. Even if you employ a secondary failsafe, a pop-up modal that interrupts and asks, are you sure you want to log out? The mere physical act of misclicking and triggering that warning modal causes an unnecessary spike in user cortisol levels.
They feel a momentary panic that they've messed up.
Exactly. By forcibly bottom-aligning the destructive action, you virtually eliminate the physical risk of an accidental strike.
And one final crucial note on the architecture of the hidden drawer. Because the drawer is essentially a catch-all that houses a much larger volume of options than the 5 visible bottom tabs, you generally need to provide icons for all of them to aid scanning.
And those icons must be sourced from one singular, mathematically consistent set.
Consistency is paramount. Consistency in stroke width, in corner radius, and in the underlying visual metaphor.
If your settings gear icon is a highly refined, thin, elegant, 1-pixel outline, but the profile silhouette immediately below it is a chunky, aggressive, heavily filled-in black shape, the drawer will look like a ransom note patched together from letters cut out of different magazines.
A ransom note drawer. I love that visual. It completely shatters the illusion of a cohesive product. Don't build ransom notes, folks. Keep your visual language violently consistent.
Violently consistent, I like that.
Okay, let's take a breath and zoom out. We have successfully engineered our main entry points, the hypervisible, mathematically precise bottom tabs. We have architected our hidden closets, the high-contrast, grid-aligned hamburger drawer.
The foundation is set.
But a digital product is infinitely more complex than just main menus and hidden drawers. How do users move organically within the actual rooms themselves? How do they navigate the data?
That structural necessity brings us to the third and final major paradigm, contextual navigation. This is the intricate connective tissue of the entire digital interface.
Contextual navigation. We are moving away from dedicated menu bars entirely now. What exactly falls into this category?
Contextual navigation encompasses all the active hyperlinks, clickable tags, or interactive buttons that are embedded directly within the raw content or the metadata of a page itself.
We're no longer talking about global menus.
Right, we're talking about interacting with the data at the granular level. Prime examples include clickable hashtags embedded in the text of a social media post, a clickable author byline at the top of an article, or interactive info cards that instantly expand to reveal a more detailed view of a specific subject.
The ultimate example of this is within dense e-commerce environments.
Oh, definitely. E-commerce relies on this.
If I am deep inside an app looking at a highly specific product page for a pair of running shoes, There might be a small pill-shaped metadata tag directly under the title that says men's trail running.
Yep, a little chip.
If I tap that contextual tag, I do not have to painstakingly back out to the main homepage, open the main menu, navigate to shoes, select men, and then select trail.
That would take forever.
Tapping that contextual tag instantly teleports me laterally to a dynamically generated list of all men's trail running shoes.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is how effectively contextual navigation mimics the associative, non-linear nature of human thought processes.
It really does flow naturally.
It facilitates a psychological state called organic discovery. You are reading an article, your brain encounters a concept you want to explore further, and the pathway to that exploration is embedded right there in the text.
It entirely removes the mechanical friction of having to mentally exit your current context, locate a global search bar, and manually type a query.
It allows the user to flow continuously through the data architecture without ever hitting a dead end.
But engineering these contextual links introduces a wildly different set of strict design requirements. Just because a link is organically embedded in a paragraph of text doesn't mean the immutable laws of touch interaction suddenly vanish.
Oh, the mechanics still apply.
Contextual links must remain physically large enough for comfortable interaction, and they must utilize massive amounts of white space.
Let's deeply analyze the challenge of contextual links within highly dense content environments. If you have an article or a dense data table, and every third word is an interactive hyperlink, and those words are packed tightly together with standard line heights, what is the inevitable physical result on a mobile device?
It devolves into a terrifying, chaotic minefield of accidental taps.
Absolute chaos.
If you have a dense product page with 10 different contextual links, the brand name, the specific category, 5 different color variants, the shipping policies, the seller profile, how do you prevent the page from looking and acting like an overwhelming airplane control panel?
It demands an absolute, uncompromising mastery of white space and visual hierarchy. You cannot simply change the text color to blue, underline it, and call it a functional contextual link on mobile.
No, that's a desktop habit.
Right. You have to physically and spatially separate these interactive elements. If you have a horizontal row of 5 related hashtags, there needs to be substantial, mathematically defined padding around each individual tag.
So they aren't touching each other.
Right. This padding guarantees that a user who is hastily swiping their blunt thumb upward just to scroll down the page doesn't accidentally trigger a hashtag navigation event.
The dreaded, unintended touch. There is nothing that shatters user trust faster than an app doing something they didn't explicitly ask it to do.
It makes them feel out of control.
Which leads us to the final and perhaps most brilliant technical rule regarding interactive states. Desktop environments and mobile environments have to handle contextual interaction fundamentally differently.
They absolutely must, because the physical input mechanisms are fundamentally different. On a desktop computer, the user is operating a mouse cursor.
A precision instrument.
Exactly, just a few pixels wide. This precision allows for the implementation of hover states. When the user moves their cursor over a contextual text link, the background might subtly shift in color, or a crisp underline might smoothly animate into view.
This hover state communicates vital information to the user before the click even occurs. Like, yes, this specific element is interactive, and you are currently targeting it perfectly.
But on mobile, the concept of a hover state does not exist. You cannot hover a physical fingertip over a glass screen and have the software recognize your intent.
You just violently tap the glass.
Right. And because mobile navigation relies entirely on the blunt, imprecise instrument of a human fingertip, the most critical concept for mobile contextual navigation is the implementation of the invisible UI.
The invisible UI. I love this concept.
It is a non-negotiable rule. Whether you are using a visible background shape for your button or just naked text, the active, responsive, clickable area in the software must be coded to be significantly larger than the visual representation of the button itself.
This is such a profoundly cool, empathetic concept. The invisible UI. So if I have a tiny contextual text link on my screen that says #design, the actual invisible geometric box coded into the app that is actively listening for my tap should extend several millimeters in every direction beyond the visible letters of the word itself.
Yes, precisely. It creates what we call a forgiving interface. Think of it like the engineering of a high-end tennis racket.
Okay, a tennis racket.
The absolute center of the racket is the visual sweet spot, but the tension of the strings is engineered so that even if the ball strikes slightly off-center, the racket still delivers power and control.
Because humans are not perfectly precise, calibrated machines.
Not at all. We tap with the sides of our thumbs, we tap while walking, we tap while distracted. If a user aims their thumb at the hashtag and physically strikes the glass 2 millimeters slightly below the text, a rigidly coded interface will completely ignore the tap.
The user will assume they are clumsy, or worse, they will assume your application is broken and unresponsive.
But a forgiving interface, utilizing an expanded invisible active area, acts like a safety net. It catches that slightly off-center tap, interprets the user's intent accurately, and executes the navigation action anyway.
It makes the application feel like it just effortlessly works. It feels like the software is literally reading the user's mind, anticipating what they meant to do rather than punishing them for a millimeter of physical inaccuracy.
That illusion of effortless perfection is the ultimate goal of all navigation design. It is an illusion manufactured through the designer's deep technical empathy for the user's physical limitations.
The user should never, ever be consciously thinking about the navigation interface. Their cognitive energy should be focused entirely on their goal.
True navigation becomes invisible, not by disappearing from the screen, but by eliminating all mechanical friction.
So what does this all mean? Let's take a step back and recap this massive, granular deep dive into the architecture of movement.
It's been a lot of ground to cover.
It really has. If you want to build digital interfaces that retain users rather than hemorrhaging them, you must respect the foundational mathematical rules of the medium. First, prioritize visible navigation whenever physically possible. Burn the golden rule into your mind. The best navigation is the one that is always visible.
Always visible.
Second, deeply respect the physical realities and limitations of the human body. Adhere strictly to the 44-point and 60-point touch target mathematics for your tab bars and hamburger menus, paying that 16-point space tax to guarantee clarity with text labels.
It's a tax worth paying.
Third, actively protect your users from psychological anxiety by giving dangerous, destructive actions like the log out button their own generous, isolated safe zone.
Quarantine the ejector seat.
Exactly. And finally, build highly forgiving organic experiences by ensuring all contextual links are padded by plenty of white space and utilize massive, invisible active areas to catch imprecise taps.
It is a comprehensive framework of human empathy meticulously translated into pixels, grids, and touch targets.
It truly is. And listen, if you are as obsessed with these granular, foundational, mathematically driven design rules as we are, you absolutely need to read the source material directly.
I really do.
We have spent this entire time deeply discussing just Chapter 19 from the incredible book design user interface. I want you to go get this book right now. You can buy the book by scanning the QR code of the book link provided in the description below.
Just open it right up.
Again, just open the description and scan the QR code. For those taking notes or who want to type it in directly, the link is https://hypeforacademy.gumroad.com/Loy book.
It is an indispensable, career-defining resource for understanding how to get both the mathematics and the underlying human psychology exactly right.
Absolutely indispensable. And to our listeners, please follow for more technical design breakdowns and career-building content. We're going to keep peeling back the microscopic layers of UI and UX every single time.
And as we close out today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
We have spent this entire session obsessively dissecting exact pixel measurements, 44-point physical touch targets, and the perfect geometric placement of visible bars and hidden drawers based on glass screen sizes and the surface area of human fingertips.
The physical constraints of the medium.
Right. But the digital landscape is rapidly, aggressively shifting. We are moving toward voice interfaces, spatial computing, augmented reality, and entirely gesture-based controls.
The interfaces are changing.
So ask yourself, how will this golden rule of the best navigation is the one that's always visible adapt and survive when the physical interface itself inevitably becomes completely invisible?
Oh, that is a profoundly complex question. Something to keep you up at night as you wireframe your next app. Because even when the glowing rectangle disappears, the fundamental human need for orientation and direction remains. Keep navigating out there, everyone.